let's prepare ourselves. And you put your hand over your eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And now over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. And now over your heart, and extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is there's nothing to heal, only more God to be revealed. There's nothing to heal, only more God to be revealed. Now, if you're visiting today, I'm not talking about pulling back a curtain and revealing a God in the sky that's a man or a woman. I'm talking about an essence that is within you, a power that is within you. It's in front of you, it's behind you, it's all around you. It's in every part of you. There is an essence that is within you. You know, when I was at in Catholic girls' school, we learned the omnis. God is omniscient, God is omnipotent, God is omnipresent. Those omnis are within you all the time. And there's nothing you can do to damage it. There's nothing you ever have done, ever will do, didn't do on the way to church this morning that can damage that power. You can ignore it. You cannot use it. But you can't damage it. You can dilute it. You can't dilute it either. You can simply ignore it. You know, another way we might say it here is there's nothing to heal, only more spiritual principle to be revealed. Because we think that there is the spiritual principle, for instance, that says you are whole, perfect, and complete. That's the truth of who you are. That's the truth of who you are every single day. Now, our work today, I'm using the work of one man who I think contributed mightily to helping us understand how today's spiritual principle works. There's nothing to heal, only more God to be revealed. And what better time than this for that message to be for us to remind ourselves of that message. The man's name that I'm working with is Joe Dispenza. You know, Joe Dispenza, and it's interesting to me, I have studied Joe Dispenza for about 3 or 4 years. I have read most of his books. Dawn and I have gone to his retreats. We often do his meditations in the morning. And as I looked over my notes, I realized I have never done a Joe Dispenza sermon. And I asked myself, why have you love this man so much? You think he's bringing so much to the table of our understanding of spiritual truth and spiritual principle. Why haven't you ever done it? And I took the question into the stillness. And the answer that I got back is, I was afraid. I was afraid to bring this kind of a message to the congregation because I worried that I might be bringing shame or confusion or discomfort to people who are facing major physical illnesses in their lives. See, I want to share with you today the medicine that I think can help a lot of us. It's certainly helped me over the years, and I look forward to it helping me even more. But I want us to be really clear that it's medicine. And any medicine that's taken incorrectly can actually do more harm than the original condition that caused you to need the medicine in your life. So let me start with this. And if you don't hear anything else this morning, make sure that you hear this. Your conscious mind is not the cause of your condition, and will not cure your condition. Your thinking mind, that mind that's polluted with stories and facts and ideas and misconceptions and limited thinking, that mind did not cause your condition, and it will not cure your condition. Now look, we're not bubbleheads here. We know that if the doctor tells us we have high cholesterol, that we should watch how many hamburgers and french fries we eat during the week. We get that. But we also know that the original condition of cholesterol was there. Just like all of us have viruses inside of us all of the time, they're there. It's what we do with that information. We don't shame ourselves about it. You know, I lost a lot of weight. Doctor said, oh, you have high cholesterol. I lost weight. I eat very little meat. I exercise a lot every single day, and I still have high cholesterol. It's hereditary with me. My thinking mind did not cause it. And my thinking mind won't be able to cure it, but there is a cure for it. You know, if you are suffering from any kind of dis-ease today, stop worrying about what caused it. Stop worrying about what caused it. Ernest Holmes said this. He said, why is an invalid question? And the reason he said it is because we delay our healing when we keep looking for somebody to blame, especially if we're looking in the mirror for somebody to blame for whatever it is that is ailing us at the time. The cure lies not in our conscious mind, but in our unconscious mind. That mind that is connected up with the divine mind all of the time. The mind that cures is not bothered by statistical prognosis. The mind that cures is not worried or concerned or even listening to any of our friends who have opinions about our symptoms, especially those symptoms they know somebody else who had. I went through a period of having laryngitis here, and it was about a 3-month period where my voice was just scratchy. And somebody comes up to me and says, you know, you better have that checked out. I had a friend who had a voice like that, and they died within a month. Now, what Donna will tell you is I'm very susceptible to that kind of thinking. So I'm making a will, and I'm, you know. The mind that cures doesn't listen to that kind of stuff. The mind that cures doesn't listen to all of the over-the-counter medications that come out in September saying it's flu season. Buy me. The mind that cures doesn't listen to that kind of a mind. I'm talking about the mind that's connected with God. It's the same mind that Jesus demonstrated over and over and over again and said, what I do, you can do, and even better than this. Jesus' teaching may have been what inspired our founder, Ernest Holmes, to write in his declaration of belief, we believe in the healing of the sick through the power of the mind. It's a foundational belief of this particular theology. And Joe Dispenza agrees. And he says that we have everything within us to heal what ails us right now. It's there. We can ignore it, or we can begin to learn about it, how to use it, where it is, what it's like in our life. See, within our mind we have what Joe Dispenza calls a complete apothecary, a complete drugstore. And it's open 24/7. It's not Walgreens, it doesn't close, not Rite Aid, it doesn't have high prices for the medication. It's all within us, right here. And it's available to us through our conscious mind, through our thought, through the way we think. Joe Dispenza for those of you who aren't so familiar with him, he had just graduated recently from the story, from chiropractic school, and he started his business. He was being very successful. He was also a triathlete. And so he was in a triathlon. He had completed the swimming portion, he had completed the running portion, and he was in the bicycle portion. And when they all had to cross a street at one point, and they had a crossing guard who would hold the cars up so that the racers could come by during the street. Well, the crossing guard didn't see a woman approaching, and so he waved Joe on, and the woman hit him and crushed several of his vertebrae. He was taken to the hospital, and the doctor said, Joe, you know, here's the thing. We think we can get you back up walking. You may walk with canes. You'll never run and hop and skip again, but we think we can get you back up walking. You'll be kind of disabled. You'll be in chronic pain the rest of your life, but at least you'll be able to walk. And Joe said, no, I'm not interested. He didn't do it. He believed that there was an intelligence in this universe that was the giver of life and also the cure of whatever healed that life. Some of us would call this giver of life God. He called it a universal intelligence that supports us, protects us, and maintains us, heals us every second. It creates almost 100 trillion specialized cells. Think about that. This universal intelligence creates 100 trillion specialized cells in each of our bodies. Trillion, I said. Specialized cells in each of our bodies, starting from just two, the Y and the K, the Y and the X chromosome. That's pretty impressive. It creates, it organizes over 100,000 chemical reactions in every single cell in our body. It beats our heart 100,000 times a day. We don't do anything for that. The universal intelligence is doing it for us. It's healing us every moment. Like I said, we all have virus inside of us. When we are in balance and connected, that universal intelligence just heals it without us even knowing our virus is there. Joe Dispenza decides to get involved with this intelligence. He wants to learn about it. He wants to know about it. He wants to develop a relationship with this universal intelligence and demonstrate what Ernest Holmes taught us, that we can heal the sick through our mind. And so he decided, he leaves the hospital AMA, he goes to stay with some friends because he's incapable of doing anything but lying face down. He can't be alone. So he stays at his friend's house, and he begins the process of developing a relationship with what we might call God, but he calls this universal essence of intelligence that's running through all of us all of the time, no matter what we've done, no matter where we've been. It's running through us all of the time. And so he did this by doing, he said, two things. The first thing that he did was every day he put all of his conscious attention on this intelligence, on this presence, on this power, and give it a plan. He gave the power a plan, a template, a vision, a view of what it is that he wants. He had specific ideas of what he wanted and how he wanted to operate in the world. And he surrendered. Now this is important. He had the view, he put attention on it, and then he surrendered to it. And this is where I get mixed up, and I think some of you might get mixed up too. I try and control it. He didn't try and control it. He said, presence, universal intelligence is smart enough to heal me. Without me, I'm not beating my heart. I'm not causing 100 trillion chemical reactions. The universal intelligence is doing that. Maybe if I surrendered to this intelligence, maybe if I surrendered, then I'd be healed. And the second thing he did was he didn't let any thought slip into his consciousness, into his conscious mind, his thinking mind, into his awareness of anything that he didn't want to experience. So let me say that again, because lest you think this is easy, it's not. He did not let anything slip into his awareness to bring him any idea of anything that he did not want to experience. Now, of course, that may sound easy, but it's not. Yes, we can experience the healing of the sick through the power of this mind, but it will take a focus like you have never focused before. It will take time. For 2 to 3 hours every single day, Joe went within and began creating a picture in his mind of his intended outcome, which was a totally healed spine, so that he could do whatever it is that he wanted to do. It took him time to become successful, especially with the second thing, of not letting any thought enter into his awareness of anything that he didn't want to experience. He would imagine himself walking and running and swimming, being a triathlete again, helping people in his chiropractic office. And he'd be really into it, he'd say. And then all of a sudden a thought would pop up, a voice would pop up, and it would be his doctor that would say, Joe, you gotta have the surgery. If you ever want to walk again, we gotta put these rods in your back. And once he did, he would lose focus. Now this is important. Every time he lost focus, he would start all over again. He didn't pick it up where he lost the focus. He would go back and start all over again in his life. He said it was tedious. It was frustrating. He didn't like it. It was hard. But he wanted to communicate with this healer, with this divine intelligence that's beating our heart. He wanted to do it in a way that his mind would be uninterrupted and what he called unpolluted in his mind. He understood that God, the universal intelligence, this presence, this power that is within you, has one word, and that word is yes. And it will always say yes. So he wanted to make sure it was saying yes to that which he wanted and not yes to that which he didn't want. So every time a thought would come in, he'd start back at the beginning and begin to retrain himself. It took him 6 weeks of 3 to 4 hours every day. Now, I don't know about you, but I often say, I have 10 minutes doing his meditations for 20 minutes, and sometimes I'll say, well, I can do about 10 minutes, but I got stuff to do. I got places to go and people to see, and yes, my arthritis hurts a lot, but I'm going to just take it with me. Instead of stopping and using the 2 to 3 hours a day to let it go. So when he began to get better, he noticed that as he continued to do this, it got easier. He didn't have to spend 3 to 4 hours a day. It went down to 2 to 3 hours, and then 1 to 2 hours. And he would begin to do this work, and he still held with the idea that I'm going to connect with the presence, and I'm going to keep anything, and I'm going to surrender to the presence. I'm going to give the presence my issue for healing, and then I'm going to keep anything unlike the healing out of my consciousness. And so he began to do that, and he felt better. And it took less time. He started feeling better. It took less time. He started feeling better. So he decided he was going to start teaching other people how to achieve perfect health. He wrote a book that I highly recommend called he wrote many books, and they're all great. I'm partial to this one. You are the placebo, the mind that matters. Your mind matters. Now, just so we're all on the same page of what a placebo is, it's a little sugar pill. It has no healing properties at all. It's often used in studies, and so they'll put one group of people with a sugar pill and one people with a medicine they want to test and see which is best. The placebo came about during World War II. During World War II, there was a surgeon, battlefield surgeon, called John Beecher. And Beecher was, one day, a kid came and he was all torn up. He needed to have surgery. But as was common at the end of World War II, there was no morphine left. And so he looked at the kid and he said, I don't know if I should even start this because I don't know that he's going to be able to withstand the pain and the trauma of being cut upon. And a nurse was with him, and she picked up a syringe and she filled it with saline, and she went over to the boy and she gave him the shot and she said, this is morphine, and you're going to feel better when you have this. You're not going to feel any pain. And so she gave him the shot, and he came through the surgery really well. No pain. Was able to heal. Now, this is just an aside, but here it is. I know John Beecher's name, but it's Women's History Month. I have no idea who that nurse was. She's the real hero me. I've done all kinds of things, and I still can't find her name. All right, let's go on. Lest you think this is an isolated incident, the young boy and the woman. I want to share with you as I close 3 stories. The first story is about, and next week we're going to take a deeper dive into how to do this ourselves. But and also this Tuesday night, Karen Holt is having a placebo effect meditation, so you might want to consider coming by. What time is it, Karen?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock here. You can actually experience in community. Karen is very good at this. You can experience in community a placebo meditation, and it's really quite marvelous. But let me tell you these 3 stories so that you don't think this is just kind of a fluky thing. The first one is a guy named Sam Lawn. And Sam Lawn was a 70-year-old man who had cancer. And It was esophageal cancer. And so they told him he was going to die. It was years ago, before there was more hope for esophageal cancers now. But they told him he was going to die. And he started to die. He started the process of dying. His family knew he was going to die. He knew he was going to die. The doctor was sure he was going to die. And so he started the process, started wasting, as some cancer patients do toward the end. And it was October. And he said to the doctors, do you think you could give me enough something that I could go home and spend Christmas with my wife and her daughter? They hadn't been married all that long. They've been so good to me. I'd like to spend Christmas with them. So the doctors did whatever they could to get him back up on his feet. And they got him back up on his feet, and they sent him home for the week before Christmas. And he was actually pretty good. Christmas comes. He's good. He has a great day. The day after Christmas, he starts to decline. A week after Christmas, he's dead. Why? Because they told him he was dying. They did an autopsy. He was misdiagnosed. He had no cancer in his esophagus. He had a little spot on his lung, but not enough to kill him. Our mind can not only cure us, and listen to this as we go through this coronavirus. Our mind can not only cure us, it can kill us as well. The second story involves 10 veterans who had arthritis of the knee. And they decided that this was, again, years ago before they started doing knee replacements. And so with arthritis, it was common to do 2 procedures. So the 10 guys, they took 2 of them and they said, we're going to do the debridement, which is just simply going in and scraping out some of the arthritic material. And the other 3 other guys, they said, what we're going to do with you is we're going to do a lavage, which is a high pressure wash. They go in, they open the knee up, they do a high pressure wash. They told all these guys, you're going to feel great when the surgery's done. The 5 remaining guys, they slit a little slit in the knee, they put them under, put a little slit in the knee, and sewed it back up. They didn't do anything. They followed these guys for 6 months. They all felt great. They were all walking without canes. They were getting up and down. They were hiking. They were doing all kinds of things. 6 months later, they're following the same guys. Hiking, doing all kinds of stuff. No canes, no nothing, no wheelchairs. 10 years following these guys. All fine, all good. Healing the sick through the power of our mind. And sometimes, again, it's not our conscious mind, it's our unconscious mind. They were told, and they believed, and they did. The last story I want to tell you is a man named Mr. Wright. He had a kind of cancer that produced tumors all over his neck, and his torso, and his face, and he was really toward the end. And his family knew he was dying. He knew he was dying. He was in the hospital. He was too weak to be home. Doctor was sure he was dying. The only person sure he wasn't dying was Mr. Wright. And so Mr. Wright had heard while he was in the hospital of a new study that was going on with his particular kind of cancer. And so he begged his doctor to get into the study, and the doctor said, there's no way you can get in, because you have to have at least a prognosis of 3 months of life, and you're going to die within a couple of weeks. Sorry. But Mr. Wright didn't let it go. He pestered, and he pestered, and he pestered, and he pestered. And so the doctor, who was also in charge of the study, said, I'm going to give him a shot just to make him feel better. So he takes the medicine, he gives him a shot, and pretty soon, and it's a real shot of this medicine, and pretty soon the tumors start disappearing. He gives him another shot, and the tumors are disappearing altogether. They send him home, he's cured. He lives cured for a year, happy, vibrant. And then he reads a story in the newspaper that says the particular medicine that he was given was fraudulent medicine. There wasn't really snake oil medicine. There was no healing properties to it. 3 days later, the tumors started coming back. He fails very quickly. They take him back to the hospital, and the doctor thought, well, if he got better with fraudulent medicine, maybe the placebo effect is going on here. So he got a syringe of saline, and he went into his room, and he said, I've got great news. He said, first of all, that story was wrong. And secondly, the company that made the original medicine improved it so it's even better now. Gives him a shot of the saline. Tumors go away. Completely gone. Goes home, lives happy for another year. Then the people who made the medicine, the fraudulent, the snake oil medicine, were indicted. And it was a big splash over the newspaper. And he reads the newspaper. Tumors come back. He's dead within a week. Is it possible that our mind can not only heal the sick, but can kill us and can make us even sicker in our life? We are, people say, I hear people say, an automobile, when they're talking about don't text in your car, an automobile is a powerful machine, it's a weapon, blah, blah, blah. We are powerful machines. We are powerful machines. Our work is to begin to know it, to begin to believe it, to begin to use it, so that when all of the mass hysteria, because this coronavirus is going to get worse before it gets better. With all this mass hysteria that's going on, we have work to do, you and I. And it's work in consciousness. It's not to protest anything. It's to begin to see this virus going back into the nothingness from which it came. And to hold on to that. So the next time you go to the store and you try and get sanitizer, and it's all out, you don't get freaked out. Oh, it's out. I was like last night after the 5th verse, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna die. Sanitizer. I can be like Mr. Right. Or we can be like healthy people that we are, inside and out. Let's take this message in prayer. There's only one power. It's the power of love. It runs right through me. And I give thanks for that. I release this word in the law, and together we say, and so it is.